So let us understand working on one small requirement. So before this, let me explain you the scenario. So day one or initial scenario is like, maybe if this is our RBI application, and maybe if this is our SBI application. So what are we trying to do from SBI? If we are getting a request, then this RBI is trying to process it and doing some activity execution and sending back some response. So for this whole thing, we understood service package is like triggering point. And within this service package, no doubt there must be a service rule. So it might be service SOAP or service REST. So from where some kind of parsing should happen. It might be like JSON parsing or XML parsing. From there, activity will be executing, and again kind of streaming should happen. So this is what we completely understood as part of web service. And even consider I'm like an LIC agent. So where I will be collecting different customers information in one Excel sheet format. So my requirement here is this Excel sheet has to be sent to this application, and this application should process all the records and store the data into their database table. So how a third party application is sending one request. Similarly, one file is like received as a request for now. So in that scenario, we understood again there must be service package, and there must be again service package, which will be having something like service file where some kind of parsing should happen. Maybe activity will be executed and there will not be any kind of response also sent back. So this requirement, we understood something with file listener. So what is this file listener doing? So there will be some location continuously watched by this particular rule. Whenever particular kind of document received at particular location, file listener automatically wakes up. Okay, and it will hand over the file to respect to package from this service file and other things. So now let us understand it's a similar type of execution, similar requirement. So that is, if this is our RB application. So now I'm a customer here. I'm a customer here having one account from RBI, consider. Okay, and I wanted to get some query or some kind of, I want to raise one complaint or maybe kind of related things. In that scenario, I'll just simply compose an email, right? So maybe help desk. So @rba.com. So if I'm trying to send one email from my personal account, so no doubt one email has to be received, sent to them. And you'll get back some response, some kind of acknowledgement response saying like, thank you for reaching us. So this is your ticket number and we'll resolve this as soon as possible. That is what the email being triggered, right? So now what we are supposed to do is whenever an email is considered as an input to our application, so what should happen? This is our scenario. So for this, no doubt, one email account should be there. Okay, as I earlier told you, our application should be having one email account. So how physically we log in into this email account and monitor everything? The same account has to be monitored by our PEGA application. So from this application, if a customer is registering, how are we sending an email? So there must be one email account and it must be connected to our PEG application. Similarly, the same email account should be continuously watched for any email received or not. So for looking for an email continuously, this can be possible with something called email listener. So now our new topic is something about like email listener. So what is this email listener doing? So email listener has to watch for some kind of email continuously for some mail account. So consider I have one Gmail account. So if I log in, I have to check for all the emails continuously, right? Manually. But manually it is not possible. So this, if it is connected to our PRPC application, then if we can maintain kind of email listener, so this mailbox will be continuously watched by this listener. So whenever any mail is received, no doubt it has to process further. So similar to file listener is what we have to. And file listener and email listener more or less similar. So file listener wise, we know it can able to handle one record at a time or even file at a time. But in email listener, we have an option to process only one email at a time. So once an email received, no doubt email listener polling time will be like 60 seconds. Once in 60 seconds, it will wake up. It will try to process all the emails by the time it is received. It has to process the first one. So once email listener is identifying any email, so further processing it cannot do on its own. No doubt service package should come into picture. So service package should have some service file, right? Service rule, right? Now in this case, service email will be coming into picture. So how it was like service file earlier, now service package from here, service email will be there, and again parsing should happen, and no doubt activity execution should happen, and this has the capacity to send back some acknowledgement email also as the response to the recipient or to the sender. So this is what overall theme should be. Fine. So now what are all the rules to be created? So ultimately one class. So if we are working with maybe file listener or any kind of service soap or REST. So we created something about like integration class, right? Here also we'll be having some kind of class to be maintained. That depending upon what further processing it will be decided. Maybe email triggering 99.9% will be dealing for creating and tickets, right? Or creating some kind of work object ID. So once an email is received, we are supposed to send back the user saying like, so one ticket 1001 is raised. This is what meaning kind of work object ID to be created. So with email listener, ultimately we are creating work object IDs mostly. So if it is about like work object ID creation, no doubt class must be like work class. So maybe ABC dash, ABC loans dash, work dash. So maybe loan processing, this will be our general case type class, right? So within this class, there must be all other remaining rules to be maintained generally. Okay, so unlike other things, so other related things will be maintaining completely on integration related class. So if your requirement is something different, still you can go for integration related only. So now PRPC every time suggests us to go for work related only because mostly it will be like work object ID generations. Class will be there. And within this class, no doubt there must be some properties, right? And there must be some kind of parse rule to be executed and some kind of activity to be there, and maybe service email should be maintained and kind of service package should be there, email listener will be should be there. All these rules are to be maintained. Okay, and this activity mainly to be designed to generate work object ID. So for generating work object IDs, we are having n number of OOTB activities. So if your requirement is also same, try to use any existing OOTB activity, or if your requirement is something different, create your own activity. So this is what you have to. Okay, when you're working with service SOAP, we are having a wizard. When we are working with service REST, no wizard because JSON related things will be supported by PEGA internally. Maybe if it is like working with service file, everything manually is what we created. Now, if you are working with email listener, okay, so you need not do anything at all. It's like very, very simple related thing. So if you just mark one single checkbox, what are all the things you are seeing, everything will be automatically created. Okay, so if my requirement is to be done manually, first of all, I have to create a class, no doubt. And I have to create some properties, no doubt. Input data, whatever you are receiving. By the way, what data you will receive? So once you get an email, what type of data you'll receive? So important things every time here is to address, maybe CC, from address, sender name, subject, mail body. So these will be some kind of important things. Whenever an email is received, these things are to be parsed. Okay, again, there will be something kind of delimited parse rule to be maintained. And this parcel, what it has to do, whatever the data we have in that email, so those are to be parsed and has to be stored into some properties, right? You might be creating a page or some list of properties, whatever it is. And after that, you have to take care of your own activity execution. And this activity to be executed from service email, and same thing should be monitored from a package. Everything we generally has to take care. But if our requirement is to go for generating work object ID, so you need not create any of these rules. System will create everything. So let me show you how to work with email listeners for now. So first and foremost, no doubt email account must be created. Email account. So we have already seen how to create one email account, right? So first cross check whether we are having any email account or not. Okay, so we're having some email accounts. Okay, so after you having one email account, next what you'll do is, so you have to go to case types. Open your own case types. And go to settings. So this is one easy way of creating all the rules. So including email listener also to be created, which is to be synchronized at admin studio level. So everything will be straight away created if you go for email instantiating. So here you'll see email instantiating as one option. Okay, and here it will ask you for some email account. So I'm already having one email account created, or whatever you feel like ready for you. So you just include that email account here and make sure that email listener must be enabled. You have to mark this checkbox and now try to click on save. So if you are trying to save this background, so many rules that is like email listener will be automatically created. And class, generally class should be created, right? Email listener will be there. Class should be created, but class again, it need not to be there. So this email listener design is about generating work object ID. Its respect to class is already there. So whatever the case type class we have, so the same thing will be picked up. So no extra class creation. And one service package will be created now with the same name as your class name. Let's cross check. Okay, so go to records and go for service package instances. So you should see one service package getting created automatically. We did not create this. So on service package rule will be automatically created. So you know the service package should be having one service email, right? So you can even see one service email rule created with the name as create. So you can even see that. So this is what the service email rule will be. So what is this service email doing? Or whenever an email listener is like, or whenever an email is like received, this email listener will monitor this one and it will hand over this to our service package. Service package will make service email to be executed. And service email, what it has to do? So first it has to create one primary page in clipboard, right? So this is the primary page. Now service page is like primary. So if you wanted to modify it also, it can be possible. And after this page creation is done on clipboard, so no doubt you are supposed to get some properties onto this page of clipboard, right? So for that parsing should happen. Parsing should happen. So there will be automated parse rule also created by the time. So you can click on this request tab. So there will be some kind of parsing segments happening. All this is happening in our work class. So in our work class, there will be service page within which some properties must be there. Okay, fine. So in parsing, what is happening is you can just check for few properties here. You can just check for few properties. Okay, as part of parsing. So whatever the to address CC from, you are getting it from email. As I told you, these are like kind of important, and even mail body also. And something extra things, if you wanted to capture like CC or BCC or attachments, you can click on plus and add the things. So these important things, whatever we are getting, those are to be parsed and has to be mapped to some properties, right? So when we're working with file listener, we created a page in our class itself, maybe work class or integration class. And the properties, whatever will be there, those are like mapped. After parsing, mapping is happening. But now, whenever this service file is created, so it is already having a page with the name called py inbound email. So there will be one page maintained with the name py inbound email. And by the way, this page will not be maintained at our case type class. So this page will be somewhere available at our work dash class. And so py inbound email, this is one page. So where it should be having some properties, right? So generally, if a page is created that is holding some embedded data meaning from different class, right? So all the properties like to, CC, from, maybe subject, and here mail body, all these are part of one class. And the class name is embed dash services dash inbound inbound email info. So this will be the class name, OOTB class this is, and there will be some kind of properties maintained. So there is already a page created in our work class with this as the name py inbound email, and all the properties are like pulled down. And the same page we are using it under service page. So that is what you are seeing. Okay, and even this property from email, it will be mapped to this property. So kind of parsing is happening, delimited parsing is happening, and for this OOTB page and for this OOTB properties. Fine. After parsing is done, generally what we'll be doing, we'll be going for activity execution, right? So if an service email is created by this time, no doubt activity also must be created. And if you go back here, and if you just check for activity, there is one OOTB activity called PY create and manage work. So this is one OOTB activity which is used to generate one work object ID, generate one work object ID. And this particular work object ID should be generated in our case type related class only. Okay, case type related things. So we'll be having like page created, PY work page, within which service page, within which all these things, right? So as per our PY work page, work object ID also will be generated. Fine. So ultimately, we're having properties maintained on PY inbound email page, right? And these properties should be saved. If we just check for this OOTB activity, and if we search inside this particular activity, that is PY inbound. So there will be like property set happening internally here. So maybe here. So kind of OBJ save will be happening. So one new work object ID has to be generated automatically. So if an work object ID is generated, meaning after activities execution is done, work object ID will be generated, and further it has to do two things, right? Okay, after activity execution is done, generally two things, that is ID generation should happen, and you are supposed to send one acknowledgement email also. So this is kind of response. This is kind of response. Okay, so now in the same service email, if we go to response tab, so here you can see kind of when conditions. So if everything is like going success, so you can see this as the header and this as the email response. So these are like two HTML stream rules. If you just open these rules, there will be some kind of uh, what is that, default email. So thank you for your email. Your request ID will be purepage.id. So if you wanted to change something different, you can modify it here. So maybe otherwise scenario, So this particular HTML stream rule will be executed. So the whole design is about creating one work object ID and sending back some response. Maybe if your requirement is something different, whenever you get an email, maybe if you are supposed to do something different, so you have to give different activity here. Okay, but response wise, it is designed to go for kind of text messages only, kind of response only. Okay, so if you don't want to send back any response, you can straight away delete this. And from activity perspective also, you can create your own activity. So this is one. And once this execution is done, so maybe if you just check for your work object instances, email has to be showing up. That is like, sorry, work object IDs must be showing up. So work object ID, how it will be created, these things we have to. Okay, fine. Now what we'll do is go to admin studio. So that's it. You need not do anything. Understanding this concept is like little important. So practically you need not do anything much. System will take care of everything. So if you go to resources and click on listeners. So you should check for email listeners. So you can see email listener. This is up and running now. Okay, so this is what email listener is. This is like running now. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll try to compose an email. We'll try to compose an email. Okay, I'm trying to compose an email from address. So this is what the mail I'm composing. Okay, so I'm trying to send email for myself, and this is the subject, and this is like body. So now click on this send. So email and go to Dev Studio and wait for maximum of 5 minutes. It should not take that time also, and maximum of 5 minutes. And if you just click on this one, you should be seeing like, you should be seeing one work object ID also showing as an instance. Okay. And so you can see all these emails, whatever the emails received to my email account. So the same things you can directly see here also. So if we can wait for maybe some time, whatever the new emails sent, even for that one work object ID generation also should be there. So this is what we have to understand.